Today, I will be discussing spectacle in medieval tournaments as a symbol of martial prowess. When you imagine the medieval era, you might conjure up images of battles and tournaments, of real and rehearsed combat. Indeed, medieval Europe could be a very violent place. Kings and lords took any opportunity they had to show their martial superiority, whether through a joust or through a military campaign. The wealthiest of rulers could put on great spectacles for this very reason. No matter how expensive or how extravagant, their position had to be justified and made clear to all who saw. We see an example of this kind of spectacle in the famous Robber's Palace event described in the Thurnierbuch. Here, a mock battle was set up around a fake palace built specifically for the occasion. At first, the participants fought in a staged way, being careful not to hurt each other. During this, though, things got out of hand, and at one point, cannoneers fired real cannonballs into the fake palace. Quoting the text, after an assault lasting a quarter hour, the attackers drew away, and the palace was thrice more bombarded, and the bastion and walls were almost completely destroyed, filling up the moat in the process. It is a miracle that nobody died in this incident, except for a poor Spanish horse that was skewered by a pike. Why spend all the money this must have taken just to stage a mock battle? The answer is that this sends a message. For one, this shows that this royal family, in this case the Habsburgs, have enough money to hold events such as this without needing to worry. 2, this shows that they are ready for war and that they train for it. If they have enough weapons and trained men lying around to host this kind of event, then surely they must have enough weapons and men to wage a real war if they so choose. This kind of message would not only resonate with the direct audience, but also with foreign monarchs and leaders who heard news of it. Moving on, there is also the personal side of military prowess. A young knight who wants to show off his skill in battle would do well to enter a tournament and prove himself to the crowd. Of course, this could also extend to a knight trying to impress a certain lady he wanted to court. He might train and become proficient in combat just to further this goal, and whether his attempt worked or not, he was now more experienced and perhaps even a better soldier. The 12th century chronicler Geoffrey of Monmouth describes how the knights planned a tournament and competed together on horseback, while the womenfolk watched from the top of the city walls and aroused them to passionate excitement by their flirtatious behavior. Tournaments also serve the purpose, from the point of view of a king or lord, of giving some basic combat training to the next generation of warriors. According to Sean McGlynn in their article Pueri sunt pueri, Machismo, Chivalry, and the Aggressive Pastimes of the Medieval Male Youth, tournaments were therefore not merely outlets of testosterone aggression and an opportunity to gamble, show off, and make money. Important as these were, their serious purpose was training knights for war. Knights could learn how to move together as cohesive units. Real military maneuvers were even played out on the tournament grounds, such as feigned retreats and the famous charges with couched lances. Although the fighting was somewhat staged, the experience gained from participating in tournaments was the bedrock upon which many knights built their military careers. Even if a kingdom was not hosting a certain tournament, it could still use spectacle to show its military prowess. An example of this is found in Kings and Knights at Play. Here, we find a tournament being held in the Italian city of Milan, in which many Spanish noblemen participated. During the tournament, these Spaniards conducted something called the Juego de Cañas, or Game of Canes. This game consisted of complex maneuvers on horseback, where participants would throw reed spears at each other, all in a very practiced and performative manner. The Juego de Cañas required a great deal of athleticism and horsemanship, and must have been quite the spectacle. Many of these Spanish noblemen would have been generals within the army, and so the message was clear. Spain could boast an impressive military, and their cavalry arm specifically was made of superb horsemen. Overall, while it was not the only reason that tournaments were held, martial prowess was an important factor in these events. It was here that Europe's military class learned how to fight. Whether you were a king or a commoner, participating in a tournament gave you the chance to prove your strength and show your skills in combat.
I will be delving into spectacle as a symbol of culture and nationality and its profound impact on the fabric of societies, mostly within the Holy Roman Empire. Tournaments were not just displays of physical prowess, but they were also deeply rooted in the values of traditions that defined medieval culture. Medieval tournaments had intricate connections to chivalric code, heraldry, cultural exchange, national identity, the role of spectators, and the feudal system. First and foremost, the chivalric code played a pivotal role in tournaments. Knights participating in tournaments were bound by a set of ethical principles. Bravery, courtesy, and honor were not just admirable qualities, but they were the very essence of a knight's character. Tournaments thus became a stage where these virtues were not only showcased but also revered, emphasizing the cultural significance of these events. Moving on to the symbolic world of heraldry and coat of arms, tournaments served as a showcase for knights to display their individual and familial identities. Heraldic symbols were not merely decorative, they showcased lineage, achievements, and alliances. Tournaments became a visual display of these emblems, transforming the arena into a symbolic representation of individual and collective medieval identity. Merely flipping through the pages of the Thurnierbuch, one will find hundreds of coats of arms and respective family names. The cultural exchange facilitated by tournaments is another interesting aspect to look at. Participants hailing from diverse regions brought with them distinct styles of armor, weaponry, and fighting techniques. The Holy Roman Empire included many Germanic, Italian, and French cultures, and during the time of Charles V, even Spanish. Tournaments were a mingling of martial arts and customs, becoming a place where different cultural ideas mix and blend together. National identities and rivalries were also played out on the tournament field. Knights, embodying their homelands, engaged in symbolic contests that went beyond individual glory. Victories were not just personal triumphs, they were seen as triumphs for an entire nation. This fostered a profound sense of national pride and identity, even before the conception of the nation-state, further combining tournaments with the cultural and political dynamics of the time. A great example of the attention to national identity during these tournaments can be found in the Robert's Palace entry of the Thurnierbuch, which states, "Everything was so well done that it was long remembered, and even His Majesty remarked, 'You of all nations and lands have all manner of pastimes, but none has ever been seen that is better, more honorable, or more entertaining than this one.'" Although this does seem to be as if the emperor is making a direct jab at all the other nations of the empire, I believe that this is a perfect attention to national identity within the empire. Moving on, the hierarchical structure of the feudal system found a mirrored reflection in tournaments. Participants, ranging from nobles to commoners, assumed various roles, highlighting the stratified nature of medieval society. Tournaments became a showcase of the social order, showing the intricate layers that defined the feudal system. An example of this can be found in a quote from Knights at Play, which states, "Tournaments, and the like, were a means of articulating power, though a limited power at best, and also a way of reminding the crowd standing outside the barriers of the aristocratic and ritualized space of combat of the importance of social hierarchy and martial skills." Finally, the role of spectators are also important. As active participants in the cultural spectacle, the audience played a pivotal role in shaping the significance of tournaments. Cheering for their favorite knights or regions, the spectators created a collective experience that strengthened cultural and national ties. The energy and fervor of the crowd became an integral part of the tournament, influencing its cultural impact. And, as seen in the previous quote from Knights at Play, the spectators were also recipients of the hierarchical message on display.
My topic is a discussion over how spectacles served as a symbol of national authority, but they also served as a symbol of a more individual, lower level elite authority, these being knights and princes. Because at first, these events had been arranged by princes and knights who wanted to bond with their local elites, therefore providing the means for knightly representation. However, over time, these separate nobilities built up networks of their own. Since the late 1300s, they had started to forward their interests by forming up in so-called they had this group of people that essentially were noble societies, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the German name for it, which acted as legal entities and became political factors on a level well beyond the individual's reach. Thus, tournaments were rediscovered as a way to bring nobles together in a less formal yet highly representative environment. They instituted things such as checking the legitimacy of anyone trying to be a part of these groups. This allowed for unwanted outsiders to be denied entry into these societies, which is very important because you hold the power to who comes in and out of, this group of people that, establish legal anything legal for a large number of people in your area. And the games were also a symbol of this individual authority. Beyond that, is that people were never meant to be physically hurt. This is why sharp armor was banned. The instruments were always blunted, and for example, in the melee, only wooden maces were prevented. And this serves really as a symbol because the goal was to destroy the opponent's crest, right? That this assertion that my family, is over yours. This is a direct symbol of authority, the power over you. I destroyed your family crest. This is me establishing my power over you. In addition, these tournaments could be advertised as occasional gatherings with super regional or national catchment areas. The latter was emphasized by society from Franconia, Bavaria, Swabia, and the Rhineland that led to this very different movement. So you have this smaller group of people that are bringing in large number of people to a specific spot, which would be obviously controlled by a singular nation. And now the ball is in the nation's court to really, do a good job at impressing the people that come here and to show your national authority. And no better place to show national authority was the royal boxes, because this not only sat elite members in a place where they were closer to the event and have a better view, but it also quite literally lifted them up to show that they're better than they're above everybody else. And these boxes were very lavishly decorated to show off the wealth and power that were held by the people that were using them. One example of this is from the Robber's Palace with the Lesthos, which was the entertainment complex built, or they described it as an entertainment complex built, but it was a royal box that was made specifically for the affair, that was hung with expensive tapestries and beautifully decorated throughout. This was an important showing because it housed a number of great leaders, that stemmed from the Queen of France to the Queen Mary of Hungary. It also cemented national authority because it brought together, to this one area. For example, one event that took place that on a more localized level, right? This took place in southern Germany. It wasn't, a big event, but it gathered people. They conversed, they argued, and they fought with one another. But at the end, they always made up. This reinforces the idea of a community, this sort of obligation you have to people above you. And, this all culminated and was seen directly with Emperor Frederick III when he called up arms against the Duke of Bavaria in 1487. Basically as if everybody had swapped their battle dress for military armor and rode off to help him in his fight because, they had obligations they needed to fulfill, and that obligation was going to fight and serve your country in, whatever way you're told. This is important in a different understanding of what most of us would consider national authority, right? National authority to a lot of people is simply just going into another country and dominating, or different groups of people coming into your nation and dominating them there. But it's very important, and the tournaments did this, is creating a sense of community and creating an environment where people feel obligated to fight for you, right? Because when it was time to go fight somebody like the Duke of Bavaria in 1487, people had got along, had brought together his community, and then they went and fought, and they were happy to fight, and they won. And the tournament provided the means for that amount of people, that amount of support to go out and fight somebody. Like, then that may have not occurred other than that.